Mind Blender.
I want to see a remake of Howard the Duck, to be honest. I'm like...
You know what? They could do it now. I said also The Mask, eh? The Mask should be remade.
Yeah.
All right, I'm bringing up old ideas.
I know, but The Mask should be remade. You're totally right, and make it that fucking violent comic book movie, because we've already seen the goofy one, like that's safe for kids.
And
like,
I don't think
that's doing something different.
Comedy doesn't play out the way it did back in those days. I don't know. I haven't seen this generation's Jim Carrey. I think Jim Carrey is a one of a kind. So is Robin Williams, and I'm not putting any comedian or comedic talents down and stuff, because probably as we're speaking, there's one just like making his way to Hollywood.
Yeah.
But I don't know, comedy doesn't play out as well. Like a movie like The Mask is like a Jim Carrey sort of like display of everything that he's about. Like that one year, like all three, I think we've already talked this, I'm not going to talk about it too much, but like that one year just showcased everything that Jim Carrey could fucking do. Yeah. And he made his $20 million a movie since then and shit, and like, he says, all right, I'm going to gracefully bow out and stuff, because what else are you going to do? Like, how do you top The Mask? Yeah. So I think, like, go back to the source material. Do like what they did with The Thing. Do the original take on like the original material, and make this the movie of the decade.
Oh, I would like them to do a remake of the movie 1984, but simply call it The News.
The News?
Yeah, because it's pretty much happening. Yeah.
So why don't you just turn on your TV?
Exactly. But yeah, there's a lot of movies that were made.
That'd
of
be
course,
interesting if they
worth their time.
They took the concept of George Orwell novel, but like applied to Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media. The thing is, like, everything's like becomes so fashionable and then like out of dates like within days and stuff. It's like hard to make a fucking like hardcore movie about that. So it's too topical. It's too, where's the beef?
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. Yeah. Other movie I think that should be totally remade, Monster Squad. I think as long as you don't drench it in CGI garbage.
No, sometimes like you just have to celebrate the original, right? So like Invaders from Mars or even the Blob. It's not like they're just updating like a little bit of with the effects and a little bit of like, as long as like you're just telling a story from that point of view, like there are still some good stories. I'm just like, I can't fucking off the top of my head think, because like there's a shit ton of great like movies from the 70s that were like, like very low budget grindhouse movies that are probably never going to be. That's another reason some movies should be remade. It's just like that story hasn't been retooled since whenever, like why not have it remade? Maybe tell a better version of it, or maybe you tell a version where like just creates curiosity about the original and all that stuff. I don't know.
There's been 5 million shark movies. Do you think they should remake Jaws?
You know what? I was like saying definitely no, and I still stand by that. But if they do, they have to like
it's going to be all show no tell though. Like in the last one.
That's why it's Hollywood. It's your money. Like fucking waste it as much as you can. Nobody's gonna fucking watch it.
Yeah, but we all know, because Bruce never worked, you rarely saw the shark, and like we were saying about even at the beginning of the episode we were talking about like rape scenes are worse when you don't see what's happening. It's the same thing with the shark attacks.
Sort of violence.
Yeah.
Like you didn't need to see any of the violence that was happening to Christy Watkins. Like she was just like being trashed around from underneath and stuff, and like everybody's just imagining what the fuck's going on, and it's just like a perfect showcase of suspense. Like Bruce the Shark is only in the movie for like 4 minutes at tops, like, and whatever. You have to like use everything else in the movie to like up the ante, like.
But they wouldn't remake Jaws. They would call it Jaws 5. Like I don't see them.
Yeah, they should just remake Jaws Revenge. Because I really like that chase in the submarine, the underground submarine. The submarine was sunk, or it was like a sunken ship, and the guy like tries to escape the shark by like swimming in that, but the shark follows him into it. And like, there's no way this fucker could fit in this thing, but he's just like cramming himself in there. But it's a kind of a good scene.
I have a prediction, man. They're gonna make Jaws again.
But
they're gonna do the
they should
Halloween
remake Jaws
thing.
3.
They're gonna.
'Cause I like that
Oh
idea.
yeah.
I love Jaws and SeaWorld. I think they just was like a bunch of missed opportunities. Should have been more violent.
Okay.
Should have been like Piranha 3D.
The time jump was a little confusing with the children of Brody. Being
4 years, all of a sudden they're like 30 years old.
They're 30 years old. Yeah. But I don't know. I'd be down to see more just shark movies in general. I mean, like they've come a long way. Like Deep
They
Blue
have
Sea was
plenty
cool.
of shark
Yeah.
movies. I think I don't know if we need any more.
All right.
I don't know. I liked the Meg.
Yeah, me too. Actually,
That's kind of
fun.
like Jaws 3D.
Yeah.
Jaws Part 3.
But that's a
this is
giant
Jaws
fucking shark. So if Hollywood were to remake Jaws, they would give him steroids. They would make him big. They would make him quite
3D.
crazy.
They don't need to. But Jaws is not just a shark movie. It's more. I don't know. You could any good horror movie or any monster movie, like the monster represents something, like subtextually.
Okay, I know what the remake I want to see of Jaws. I want Trey Parker and Matt Stone to make it as Team America, and the shark is a puppet and everything, and they totally dress down the quality of it. And it's just like if you're gonna
You might as well lean into the fact that it's a puppet.
Yeah, exactly. No, I have a prediction, Marco. Hollywood will remake Jaws in the same way that it will be a legacy sequel like Halloween, and it'll be called Jaws, like Scream. It'll be called Jaws, except it's now. And the only person, it's like a direct sequel to Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4 never happened. I'm predicting they're probably going to do that. Because everyone likes Part 1 and everyone tolerates Part 2. And, Part 3,
Part 3 is
Part 3 is all right. And then Part 4 is one of the biggest disasters of all time. So is Superman 4. We should do an episode about
Bad threes?
About bad fours. Because rarely do fours succeed. Like Superman 4, Jaws 4, the list is endless. Police Academy 4, it's funny. There's like a whole...
What's Nightmare 4?
Nightmare 4 is when it gets bad. It's the Dream Master.
The Dream Master's all right. It's once Dream Child, like Part 5 is really bad.
Part 4 is tindering on
Part
getting
4
bad.
is actually a remake of Part 1.
Okay.
Well, obviously it's a remake of Part 1. It's basically telling the same story, but like kind of following the same characters and shit. But Freddy's like coming back because you can all. I like Part 2. We're gonna go into Freddy territory. I like Part 2 just because it's kind of a continuation. You got the final boy instead of the final girl type of thing, and like.
That's Part 4. It's just took a dump on everything you like about Part 3. They kill off the remaining characters. Which
one? Part 4?
Yeah, Part 4.
Yeah, but that's it. That's where it's a workable remake of the Part 1. It's not necessarily bad. It's not necessarily like groundbreaking or anything. It's kind of a guilty pleasure, if anything. It's fun to watch. But Part 5 for me is when it just starts like dumping in quality. It's like they're really leaning too much into the wisecracks and this and that, and then like Freddy's dead. They don't even bother with inventive kills. They're just all cartoony. And
I couldn't get through Part 6. I'm not saying like
Freddy's dead.
Oh my God, I'm just so autistic. I couldn't watch it. I'm just like no. I literally just
I like
lost
the
interest.
weirdness or some weird elements, like because this was a time when like it was around Twin Peaks. They were trying to make things very weird and obviously dreamlike and all that shit. But like they go into the weird, strange town and stuff. It's just they couldn't get that tone right. Yeah. So like you have weird cameos by Roseanne and Tom Arnold, and they just pop in and like for fucking no reason at all and shit. But it's somewhat strange. It would have been a better movie if they just like leaned into that stuff, I think. But like there's in that not 80 minutes, there's probably like good 4.5 minutes.
There you go.
Yeah. But Dream Master, that was okay.
Okay.
That was good. Okay, the loop scene's great. It's very dreamlike.
Okay, so to finish off the conversation today, is there a hoping for the future? Let's end up on something positive. Can you think of a remake that really blew you away, besides the big three, of course, in the 80s? Like, is there another remake that you would recommend to somebody and say, you know what, that was pretty fucking good?
Dawn of the Dead. There you go. That was like a remake. I was surprised.
It's a really good one. I like that one a lot.
Very surprised with how into it I got.
And did its own thing too. Wasn't a carbon copy. It was like they made the mall way more prevalent. Well, in the first one, the apartment building was a huge part of the other one, and there was a lot more social commentary in the original.
Yeah.
But this one was pretty cool too.
Yeah, no, it was great. I think it falties in rewatch value. Like, you know, some movies you could just rewatch, and I think those are like the best movies. Like, we talk about The Thing being a fucking great movie because you could kind of watch it over and over again and try to decide, like, well, who's the thing? You know, like, it keeps you kind of guessing. Or there's like something else that reveals to you, or there's some detail in the background that you're like, holy shit, I didn't see that before. In like the Dawn of the Dead remake, I think is a good one and done. Or you could watch it a few times, but like there's some charm for the original Dawn of the Dead where you could just like rewatch it and it's like, I would put myself in that. That looks like so much fun, driving your car in a fucking mall, running over people.
I was at a high school reunion yesterday, and it wasn't, but I will say, like, it was in a brand new building, and the high school we went to does not exist anymore. Well, the building doesn't exist anymore. It's a bunch of condos. This one is an abandoned orphanage that looks like the Outlook Hotel a little bit. Like
Overlook?
Yeah, the Overlook Hotel. And I'm like, fuck, if we went to high school here, A, I think the ghost of, like, you know, abandoned children must be somewhere. But B, just the ability to explore. Like, as an adult, I'm like, I always wanted to, even with our old elementary school, I'm like, man, it would be great to get locked in here at nighttime and just run around on roller skates or just all that shit. So I'm thinking in a mall, wow, there's a lot of potential to have some fucking fun in there.
That's what inspired the original Dawn. It was just like, George Romero was just friends with a guy that owned a mall.
Yeah.
And he was like, imagine if we had a zombie outbreak here.
Yeah.
Oh, I like The Crazies. Speaking of George Romero, there was a remake to George Romero's The Crazies, and I thought that was I was pleasantly surprised. It was a very effective movie.
George Romero has been remade a fucking lot when you think about it. And so has Paul Verhoeven. All Verhoeven's biggest hits have all been remade unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
RoboCop, fucking forgettable. Total Recall, I saw 10 minutes of it.
That's when you're like, well, why are you gonna remake? Like, if you're gonna remake it, like do it the best you can. Like the Paul Verhoeven, but those are tough acts to follow. It's like trying to do a retake on Freddy Krueger because you have to like fucking try to top Robert Englund, and you can't.
No,
you can't. Like, unless you're Jim Carrey or something. Like, yeah, you need to do something like completely different. But like, how do you fucking like remake? How do you like top that? And it's the same thing. Paul Verhoeven is basically the director version of like Robert Englund. You know, he's just like, he's a tough act to follow. You can't remake RoboCop. It was a perfect movie of the 80s. It's just like this perfect satire of the excess of like corporate 80s greed. So how do you tell that in the modern way? You could have, but can you do it in a satirical way? They tried leaning into it with the Sam Jackson stuff, like doing like his media takes and shit, but there's just something that like RoboCop in the end needs teeth. It needs to be extremely gory. There's something about the excess that's out there. That, or if you're going to tell that story, don't attach a name. Oh, of course they attached a name, and they had this very awkward like use of the theme song in the weirdest of places in the movie.
The original felt like it was made of steel that had some jagged edges on it, and this one felt like it was made of like smooth aluminum.
Too fucking sleek.
Yeah,
you know, it's like trying to figure out your iPhone. You're like, you just get frustrated with it, and just fuck you. Like, I know the pieces were all there, and I think it was cool to have Michael Keaton in there and saying like, do you have him in black? I'm like, haha, that's a nod to Batman, haha.
I thought it was pretty cool that you see like Murphy's head, and he's like, you know, like
the design of that was really cool. Like, it's just, once again, whenever you see anything that has to do with RoboCop when you're watching that movie, to me, like in the back of my mind, I'm like comparing it to the original. I don't want to. But unfortunately, you tacked it on to something else.
Yeah,
you know?
I feel you, man.
Yeah, I was trying to make one more point.
Yeah, before we gotta go off on a positive note, man. Positive note.
Oh well, I was saying great things about that. I liked I'm not saying I liked the Total Recall remake. I just was expecting worse. So that's enough. I was expecting worse. I like Colin Farrell a lot, and I think I'm like, you know what, I could buy it. I could buy it. He's not Schwarzenegger, but you know, I could buy it. It's closer to the source material. Like his character was more of like your average, even though like Colin Farrell is like way too handsome to be an average looking guy.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Oh man, we should bring this up though. It. You know, there's been a lot of
Yes.
forgettable Stephen King remakes of recent. I mean, Firestarter being one of them. Pet Sematary being another. We've already talked about
they
those.
should remake The Dark Tower, but do it right.
There you go. Here's a movie. Yeah, I know. I don't want to see a movie, The Dark Tower. Fuck. I want to see a limited miniseries. I want them to take some fucking time. Get to know
But
Jake.
it should be
get
done,
to know Roland.
But it should have a huge like quality where you'd want to see it in the theater.
Of course.
Like, mind you, everybody hates going to the theater now.
Well,
But
then
like
again,
it needs like kind of like a Marvel sort of like grandiose, because fucking 7 books that are over, they range from 300 to like 1,000 pages each. Like they're fucking huge books, and there's so much to go through, and there's like a bunch of other backstories too that like you could delve into. Like you made a huge epic with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Like the Dark Tower, if they had like, it's just like it's really rough material. It's like I'd want it R-rated, so like that would never happen to have it like
I'll
a Marvel
fucking tell
budget.
You. And it's funny, I'm saying this out loud, but at the same time, I think it would be a great movie.
So when I say they should,
yeah.
I wish they could.
Okay, so-
I wish they could. It's better.
So the Dark Tower movie, like we all know what the fuck was wrong with it. It was like a young adult novel. They made
YA,
it
yeah.
they made it into like Jake's perspective, Harry Potter bullshit. And it's like, you know who Jake is? Robin. The movie should be about Batman.
You know what? I have no problem with it being Jake. They should have just followed Jake and then introduced, like, just approach, or have this one out of like 7 movies, and we start off at Jake's perspective, and Roland's kind of like this weird boogeyman or this person, like kind of like I saw the directions that they were going into, but I automatically knew the movie was going to be trash when I just randomly looked at what the running time was, it being 90 minutes, and like, boy, this is going to be shit. It's just going to be like a shit ton of stuff. Like it's like, you know, when you're having a burrito and they decide to put ice cream in it just because you need to have everything all in one. This is a nightmare to burrito and stuff, and it just was like too much, like
Dude,
jammed in together.
The gunslinger is so easily adaptable in just a slow burn, awesome western where fucked up stuff slowly happens.
First novel is could be a perfect like Sergio Leone like style of western, you know, like just like slow pace, but like, you know, like constantly, like you could have Denis Villeneuve like shoot it kind of like how he did Sicario, like kind of like, you know, earn its moments.
Denis Villeneuve can save Dark Tower. I'm saying this right now.
Probably it would be like
everybody out there.
But he's done every big franchise. Give the guy a break. Let him do another small movie.
You can make it a small movie. That could be like a
that's a good idea,
$10, $20 million movie. It's just a fucking guy in a desert and a kid.
And then make Mike Flanagan do like more bigger stuff, or like just change it up. Have this be
Flanagan could fucking rock.
Have
Dark
this be
Tower
like
too,
kind
though.
of like a sort of an anthology sort of series where you have a different director do each segment of the movie.
You know what? I can even see fucking Tarantino rocking the Gunslinger too, though. Like, just especially when it comes to dialogue and exposition. Roland walks in a bar and you see the bartender there, like before shit goes wrong, and they're having this long explanation about how the world went away, and you would get this great fucking like world building, but at the same time the tension. Because I've seen Hateful Eight, and that fucking guy can make a guy on a couch for 8 minutes bleeding fucking interesting.
Well, yeah, you bring it up because so Randall Flagg, or the Man in Black in The Dark Tower, is played by Matthew McConaughey, and I think we have yet to see Matthew McConaughey rock any of like Tarantino's dialogue. It would have been cool if he was at the end. I'm probably spoiling the first book, and like anybody who hasn't read the book doesn't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. But there's a scene when the gunslinger is following the Man in Black through a desert, and like that's his whole like first novel, or it's his whole like fucking life like up to this point and stuff. So when he finally meets up to I forget the name of the Man in Black, anyways, who in the movie is played by Matthew McConaughey, which was one thing I really was on board for, because I think Matthew McConaughey fucking killed it as him. and it would be interesting to see Matthew McConaughey play that character one more time with a Tarantino list, like, you know, where in Kill Bill, like when finally he's explaining the reason why he did what he did to the bride and all that stuff, like, you know, and just like a slow, very hypnotic, like sense of storytelling. You almost forgot what movie you're watching. It's just like you're embraced, like you said with Hateful Eight. He's able to like just do monologues where you just get lost in like what they're talking about, and he's gotten better at it, I find, since like his entire career. So yeah, that'd be interesting. See him like just write some of the, or maybe not, just write. Like doesn't need to direct the movie, just write it.
And I want to see Roland played by something like, look, Idris Elba, he's a great fucking actor, but the thing is, he's just too well nourished to be Roland. Like, you're talking about a guy who lives in the desert, who's been compulsively chasing a guy like an addiction in the Dark Tower, who doesn't drink for 5 days at a time.
When we're catching up with him, he's like basically skin and bones.
Yeah, so like, Idris Elba being this gorgeous, well-toned dude just kind of takes me out of the idea. But if you have an actor like Matthew McConaughey playing Roland Deschain, that guy will get fucking AIDS skinny like he did in Dallas Buyers Club in order to portray the role, to make him look like a sunken, like, dude, Eddie Dean calls Roland old, tall, and ugly. You think he's going to be talking about Idris Elba, that fucking Adonis, like that? I don't think so. He would be sarcastic like Little John.
I would have liked to have seen more with the Dark Tower with Eddie Dean. I like Eddie Dean. He's my favorite character.
Well, here's the thing. Like, you like the Gunslinger a lot more than I do. Like, I like the Gunslinger, okay, but the drawing of the three, I think, is like one of the greatest stories I've ever read. Yeah. Like, I was so fucking hooked. Here's the crime story from the 1970s of Eddie Dean with the heroin, Scarface, all that type of shit. Then you go to the civil rights, where you have a bipolar person, or a person with a schizophrenic person with multiple personalities, who is like a civil rights advocate, but at the same time is a fucking craziest stereotype woman you've ever seen out of like almost a pulp novel, of just like, who's like, you know, such a badass that is pivotal and necessary. Like Odetta, you get so into her, like, you're like, oh shit, Odetta's a bitch, but I'm glad she's on our side. And so you have that duality, and then you have Jake, who at this point isn't even in there, but there's this idea that Jake still exists somewhere, and that is fucking amazing. Like, the drawing of three is fucking awesome, and I'm just kind of like,
expanded storytelling.
I hated the fact that Dark Tower just did that TV movie bullshit where you take like 3 or 4 ideas and you shove it in, and you're like, whatever, suck it, nerds.
It kind of felt like we were just like fucking, here, take it, like, because there are people, like Dark Tower, when it was being written, it was like fucking over the time of like, what, he started like, if you really think of the incarnation, it started like late 70s. I think he was just like releasing snippets of like each chapter. That's why the first novel kind of has this more like vignette type of feel to it. Like, you know, like each part like is like its own little book, and then like he just got more on board trying to like finish the series, and it took him like 15, 20 years. So there are people that died that wanted to know what was at the tower. You know, like they were just too old to like, because he was taking too much time to do it. Can you imagine that? And it's in, I think, the afterwards of the third novel and stuff. And it broke his heart to read that. Like he had like old fans that couldn't like keep up with his you know, with time. So so that being said, that legacy being shoved into like a 90-minute movie that had no bearings, like, or like, no world building or anything like that and stuff. It just felt like, it didn't even feel like a TV movie. Some TV movies have its charm and stuff. It was just like, you know, either go for broke or don't do it at all.
Yeah, because, sorry, like we gotta finish up this episode.
I did not mean to turn this into a Dark Tower.
I know.
I've been venting about this. It's been spewing.
It's authentic in our
fuckers.
bodies, man. All right, we'll do a whole episode of Dark Tower stuff.
No, I'll fucking need therapy after that.
I know. But Dark Tower, there's actually a book that I haven't read yet that takes place before the last one that came out like within the last 10 years. And I do want to check that out because I love me some Eddie Dean, Odetta Holmes. I love them all. So, dude, that was fun. If we think of any, internet, if you know any remakes that you think should have been, or movies that should have been remade, say them in the comments below, because then we'll go, oh yeah, and then we'll say, fuck, why didn't we think of that? And that's fun.
Yeah, because I really need some prompting. I was like drawing a blank. Like every movie should be remade.
Yeah.
Everyone.
What? Really?
Yes. Casablanca.
I want to see.
No.
Yeah.
Don't remake Casablanca.
Oh, and a quick little note. We've already talked about this at great length, but they did 2 remakes in the 90s of Dracula and Frankenstein, and those more of the older ones. And it's funny because it didn't work, because in the 90s, all of a sudden, all monsters had to be sexy teens. And I would just like to see a return to form of the monster being a monster without it being fuckable. Just to say on that last.
You're
note.
talking about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein?
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but like the Robert De Niro, decrepit-looking monster did not look appealing at all.
All right, on that note, my dog fell over and I gotta go pick him up. So,
All
end
right.
of that
Oh
episode.
no, he's up.
Okay.
He's up and about.